that from previous episodes. But it just shows how something can be taken out of context when you snippet something. And this is what the media news outlet does a lot, which is why I don't like to listen to certain media news outlets at all. I'd rather do my own research. And I actually compel others, like if you're going to do research, go out and look at multiple sources of evidence, not just all sourced and pinpoint from the same thing. If you'd watched the full content what he's talking about, he was talking about nuclear plants and energy and how investing in one thing for the long term can save money in the longer term as well. So he was talking about investing in nuclear plant energy, I believe. And then he guess the example he gave was probably a bit stupid because you can play nuclear plants to a kettle. But, that's where, yes, he's, you're causing your own problems there, mate, as I say it. So a little bit more due thought process with that in terms of how you explain it would be better. And I could probably explain things slightly better on here than probably what I have done this episode, because ultimately should he be banned? I think no. Did I agree with his content? No, not with most of it. But as I said, you have the freedom choice to listen and not to listen. And I feel like who's policing all this? Did he get banned because a lot of people stood up and only watched some elements of what he was and banned it? I mean, where do we draw the line? Who's responsible? Should the government get involved? But then I don't know why the government needs to focus on other more important issues right now, which is making sure people don't go hungry and have heating, and that's a priority right now in this country. And you guys all know, Callum and Josh know, I'm a much big advocate of that, and I've been voicing my opinion on stuff like that significantly. The example we gave earlier was like how with Liz Truss, at this moment in time when I'm recording this episode, Liz Truss became Prime Minister this week. And one of the tax ideas is to lend billions of pounds to the energy companies to reduce costs to the taxpayer, but then through the taxpayer that we pay off the debt given to the energy companies. And I'm like, well, why don't we just bring it into public control? If we're going to fund their debt over the next 20 years, isn't it logically that we just bring it under government control, public control, instead of letting them keep the profits, but then pay their debts off? I mean, where's the logic in that? So I'll talk about that in my news roundup and episode 21 when we get there. But again, it's a hot topic right now. And if you search for Andrew Tate, I think it's had the opposite effect that the cancel brigade, and I will call it the cancel brigade because there is a lot of things being cancelled I don't think should be cancelled. I feel like we're not able to have an open and honest discussion or subjective view about it. The way I do it is, and I'm just going to come up to the last example, is someone on LinkedIn talked about it when he got banned, Andrew Tate. It was he talked about how the gap left by him will be filled by someone else, and that he's neither the symptom nor the problem. And someone put a comment which I agreed with, which was like, I'm on the fence with this one. This person never heard of them, guessing that they've not watched all of his content. But in the world we live in, you have a choice to watch or not to watch. With freedom of speech comes freedom to not to listen, and that's with all people. The example he gave is, I don't agree with the Kardashians filming a selfie of children when driving. Do I want her cancelled? No. Do I follow her? No. I think that was a very good example of what he gave. And I was like, actually, this is one thing. And because I gave my opinion on that, someone else, I'm not going to say who, came in and said that because I talked about, the choice of listening to not to listen means you don't ignore the problem. You can always put out positive comments against that. Does that make sense? And saying, well, actually, if it's something like Kim Kardashian and apparently she has taken a picture while driving with a kid, well, publicize, driving safety and how you should drive with a kid and how you should be more watchful, and saying this is not how you should drive, for example. And the comment was like, oh, you scroll past and choose to ignore because you clearly have a balanced mindset. And I would agree, I have a balanced mindset. Hopefully that comes across in my podcast. But it's hard because you talked about a lot of things and left it with the comment as a man, it's probably difficult for you to understand how damaging it is. And I was like, what's my gender got to do with anything? Why is it because I'm a man that it would probably be difficult for me to understand, a woman's opinion, when obviously at the start of this I talked about I grew up with 5 sisters and my upbringing, and my mother was the one who raised me, not my father. So I understand a woman's opinion more than anything, and the struggles that women go through and single mothers go through more than anything else. And then when I called her out for that, for being sexist comments, and I got labelled as being a Andrew Tate sympathiser and supporting hatred and abuse towards women. And that's where I think the issue is here. I think people won't read the content in its fullest. I don't think people are willing to have a debate anymore. I feel that we're too quick to go cancel someone and throw outlandish comments like the ones that I experienced, and then I called her out for it, and I told her these comments are public and you better have something to back it up. And then before you know it, a couple of the other posts were deleted because it's untrue. I do not support that, and that's not who I am. We were talking about freedom of speech and freedom of choice. We weren't talking about Andrew Tate. We're talking about, well, this is an example of how you can choose it. And that is what I'm trying to get over in this episode. Is like, there's a lot of content on social media platforms. I'm just going to quickly summarize it. If I can give the best advice is, we are on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, LinkedIn. There is billions of content out there that's published per day. You are not required to read all of it. You do not have to agree with all of it. You have a choice as an individual, whether it's company content, whether it's personal content, whether it's celebrity or influencer-based content. You have a choice to listen to not listen. And just because you don't agree with a certain post, I think that's where this whole cancel brigade element comes from when people get banned. And I think that is to some degree unjustified. And that's just my opinion on that matter. So to the mates that were asking me my opinion on Andrew Tate, do I think he should have been banned? No. Is he responsible for his banning? Absolutely yes, because he is responsible for his content. But we need to hold the social media platforms more accountable because there's worse content out there. And my question is, well, if that can be banned, why isn't other stuff being banned? And why isn't other stuff being policed? And how do you go about doing that? And maybe it's a open discussion for others to think about that. Actually, there's a lot worse content out there. And how do we protect children? How do you protect others from hearing that content? But I think a good episode to some degree. I try not to get into too much detail. I try to just give an opinion. The choice is yours ultimately. Platforms like social media have taken conversations we used to have in our houses, in the pubs, at work, out to the millions of the people on the internet worldwide. And at that level, you are about to have disagreements of what content should be pushed and what shouldn't be pushed, whether you agree with it or disagree with it. But I always feel like there's a danger because if you're cancelling someone else because you don't agree with their content, then what if that happened to you? Then you'd be like, it's unjustified, it's unfair if someone cancelled or silenced you for the content you were sharing. And I think that, there's two sides of a coin. And unfortunately, we're stuck in the middle. And I'm going to leave it at that. So please do share your opinions on where you think, it is. I don't want anyone to comment that is an Andrew Tate sympathizer. This isn't a platform for that. We're talking about freedom of speech, the freedom of choice. And that's what this topic is all about is, how far does it go? Who's responsible? I'd like to know what you think and your opinions on that side of things. I don't want to know what your opinion on Andrew Tate is or his content. I don't want it shared on this because I don't agree with most of it and we will block it essentially. So, previous warnings on YouTube for anyone out there. Thank you for listening. Not my usual topic that I go over, but the next few topics are going to be really interesting. I'll talk about ethics in marketing with the Burberry campaign that they did with the young Sikh boy. We then talk about the future of SEO and Performance Max campaigns in the next upcoming episode. So a lot of educational, important information. So do subscribe, do listen, do follow, and notify yourselves for those upcoming episodes because they're going to be very, very informative, very, very educational, and will help you in the current climate of what's going on. Thank you for listening.